Corbin Blackwood had become a master of blending in, barely 5'7", with a slight build that seemed to shrink inward as he moved. He navigated the corridors of Crestwood Academy like a ghost. His light brown hair often fell across his face, partly hiding hazel eyes that held more wisdom than anyone cared to see. The faded olive green parka he wore was from his cousin, a hand-me-down that swamped his slim frame, making him seem even smaller. Nearly a month had passed since his family settled in this quiet town in Maine, and Corbin had mostly stayed out of everyone's way. He liked it that way. Moving constantly because of his mum's job had taught him that making friends was pointless when you always had to leave. What nobody at Crestwood knew was that all that moving had led him to judo schools all over, where he'd found comfort in the rules and order that his unstable home life lacked. By 15, Corbin had earned a brown belt in judo and had studied Aikido for almost 4 years. His teachers always noticed his talent and hard work, but Corbin kept this secret from school. He'd learned long ago that showing any strength only made you a target when you were always the new kid. Crestwood Academy covered 50 acres of green fields, its grey stone buildings linked by open walkways where students gathered between classes. The school boasted about its debate team and science program, but like most schools, it had its share of bullies who used the teenage social ladder. Jared Monroe controlled the sophomore class with the self-assurance that came from being the mayor's son and having a way of making teachers ignore trouble. Standing 6'3", built like someone who lived in the gym, Jared had dark brown hair and grey eyes that could change from friendly to cruel in a heartbeat. His 2 sidekicks, Finn Wallace and Ethan Reed, always did what he said. Finn was short and loud, always trying to prove himself, while Ethan was thin and quiet, with a nasty sense of humor that made him laugh when others were hurt. The first thing happened on a Wednesday morning near the main entrance by the office. Corbin was going to his class, looking down, watching the lines on the tile floor, when someone walked right into him, hard enough to drop his books. "Look out, newbie," Jared said, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. Some students slowed to watch, but nobody stopped. Corbin knelt to pick up his things, his jaw tight, but his hands steady. "Sorry," he said softly, even though it wasn't his fault. "Yeah, you're sorry," Finn added, kicking one of Corbin's papers as he tried to grab it. "Maybe watch where you're going." The laughter echoed in Corbin's ears, but he made himself breathe slowly, like Master Ito had taught him back in Arizona. Fighting was always the last thing, and these were just words and small pushes. The pattern started fast over the next days. Jared and his friends would find ways to make Corbin's life hard, pushing books out of his hands, making fun of his clothes or how quiet he was, making sure he felt left out. These things were small enough that no teacher would care, but enough to make him feel tense all the time. It was lunch in the cafeteria when Corbin first noticed Willow Bell. She sat alone at a table by the window, reading a big old book while eating a small salad. Her dark hair was in a simple braid, and she wore a strange t-shirt that told Corbin she didn't care about fitting in. When she looked up and saw him staring, she smiled a little, which made his stomach feel funny, not because of the bad food. Their first talk happened by chance when they both reached for the same book in the library. "To Kill a Mockingbird," Willow said, looking at the cover. "Good book, but try Lee's Go Set a Watchman if you haven't." Corbin found himself talking to someone for the first time in weeks. "I haven't. Is it the same?" "Same idea, but sadder. It's about how people change." She stopped, looking at his face. "You're the new guy, right? Corbin?" He was surprised she knew his name. "Yeah, and you're Willow." "News travels fast in a small school," she said, smiling. "Especially when someone stays out of sight for a month. That's hard to do." They became friends slowly, having lunch together in the library and talking quietly about books, music, and the strange ways of high school. Willow had been at Crestwood since she was little, but had never really fit in. She was too smart for the popular kids, too different for the smart kids, and too real for the others. Corbin started looking forward to school, but he kept his feelings for Willow to himself. She was something he'd never let himself want, a true friend who saw past his walls. The bullying went on, but Corbin dealt with it using the patience he'd learned from years of training. Jared seemed to see him as something to play with, a toy to use when he needed to feel strong. The things they did got worse little by little, bumping into him harder in the hall, saying meaner things, and more people watching as the word spread that the new kid was an easy target. "Why don't you fight back?" Willow asked one day as they sat on the steps after school. She'd seen Finn spill juice on Corbin's shirt during lunch, and she sounded angry. Corbin was quiet for a minute, watching the soccer team practice on the field. "Sometimes fighting back makes things worse," he said. "My grandpa used to say the strongest person doesn't need to show it." He didn't tell her that he'd seen what happened when fighters lost control. During his second year of judo in Nevada, he'd seen a student hurt someone badly in a fight. The problems with the law, the guilt, the way it changed him. Corbin had promised himself never to use his training as a weapon unless someone's life was in danger. The last straw was on a Friday afternoon in late November. Corbin was walking through the main hall with Willow, talking about seeing a movie that weekend, when Jared and his friends appeared as if they were waiting for them. "Well, look what we have," Jared said, sounding surprised. "The ghost found a girlfriend." Willow held her books tighter, but she kept walking. Corbin felt the knot in his stomach, but he kept walking toward the exit. "I'm talking to you, ghost," Jared called out, his voice loud. "Don't be rude." When Corbin kept walking, Finn stepped in front of them, while Ethan walked around behind them. The hall was full of students going home for the weekend, but the crowd seemed to move back, making a circle around them. "Leave us alone, Jared," Willow said, her voice firm but worried. "Oh, the bookworm has something to say." Jared laughed, and Corbin saw the meanness in his eyes. "Tell me, Willow, what do you see in this loser? Is it how he runs from everything? That's a good thing in a guy." "It's better than feeling bad about yourself and picking on others," Willow said back, and Corbin wished she hadn't. Jared's face darkened. "Feeling bad? That's funny coming from someone who's been nothing since grade school." He stepped closer to Corbin, close enough that Corbin could smell the soda on his breath. "You know what, Ghost? I think it's time everyone saw what you really are." Before Corbin could move, Jared grabbed his parka and pulled hard. The old fabric, already weak, tore with a loud rip that echoed in the quiet hall. The force made Corbin stumble back, and he heard Willow gasp as the parka ripped down the front. "Oops," Jared said, sounding innocent, holding the torn fabric. "Looks like your boyfriend's clothes are as weak as he is, Willow." The laughter from the crowd felt like punches. Corbin stood there in his thin shirt, the ripped parka hanging, feeling more open and ashamed than ever before. That parka had been his protection, his shield, and now it was ruined in front of everyone. But it was Willow's face that broke him. She wasn't laughing or embarrassed. She was angry, her face red for him, and seeing her feel his shame was too much. "That parka was my cousin's," Corbin said quietly, his voice making some students stop laughing. "What was that, Ghost?" Jared said, throwing the fabric at Corbin's feet. "Speak up so everyone can hear you." Corbin looked down at the ruined parka, then at Jared. Something changed in him, a small straightening of his back that made him seem taller. "I said that parka was my cousin's. My cousin who's a police officer and protects people." The change in Corbin was small but clear. His shoulders squared, his hands relaxed at his sides, and he breathed deeply. Willow saw it first, the way he changed from scared to ready. "So what?" Finn laughed, but he didn't sound sure. "He's not here to help you." "No," Corbin said, his voice calm. "He's not." Over the weekend, word of the parka spread on social media. Videos showed Jared laughing and Corbin ashamed, and by Monday, everyone at Crestwood had seen it. Corbin handled the stares and whispers with the same quiet way he had all year, but some might have seen small changes. He moved through the halls with more energy, his steps sure, his senses sharp. During lunch, instead of sitting quietly while Willow read, he asked her about self-defense, saying he'd trained in different styles because of all the moving. "Really?" Willow asked, looking up. "What did you train in?" "Judo, mostly. Some Aikido." He shrugged. "Moving a lot, it was something I could always do." Willow looked at his face, seeing that his eyes seemed more alert, more focused. Are you good at it?" Corbin was quiet. "Good enough." That day, Mr. Davis, the history teacher, saw Corbin's better posture in class. "Mr. Blackwood," he said after class, "you seem different today, more sure of yourself." "Just a good day," Corbin said, smiling a little. Corbin had spent the weekend thinking about what happened, dealing with his feelings using the training he'd learned. The shame had made him realize he couldn't be afraid to protect himself. He didn't want revenge, but he wouldn't be anyone's victim. Jared, meanwhile, felt good about his win. Tearing Corbin's parka had made him look strong, and he enjoyed the attention and the fear of others. "Did you see his face?" Finn laughed at lunch. "I thought he'd cry right there." "The best part was seeing his girlfriend realize what a loser she was with," Ethan added. Jared leaned back, looking at the cafeteria like a king. "We need to do something special this week. Can't let the ghosts think that was it." The chance came Tuesday afternoon, between classes. The hall near the gym was always busy, which was perfect for what Jared had planned. He'd gotten some football players to help make a bigger scene, and they stood in the hall. Corbin was walking to his math class, alone because Willow had a different class, when he saw Jared and his friends blocking his way. "Well, well," Jared said loudly. "Look who showed up again. How's that parka working out, Ghost?" The crowd started quickly, students slowing down and taking out phones to record. Corbin stopped, but didn't move back, his dark eyes meeting Jared's with a look he hadn't had before. "I asked you a question," Jared said, stepping closer. "Or are you too scared to talk? Maybe we need to help you find your voice." This time, Finn didn't wait. He moved behind Corbin while Ethan came from the side, trying to do what they'd done with the parka. But when Finn reached for Corbin's shoulder, something happened. Corbin's hand moved fast, grabbing Finn's wrist in a grip that made him yell in pain. It was so fast that students gasped. "Don't touch me," Corbin said quietly, his voice silencing the crowd. Finn tried to pull away, but Corbin's grip was strong. He used just enough pressure to make his point, then let go of Finn's arm, showing who was in control. Jared's eyes widened, but he couldn't back down. "So the ghost can fight," he sneered, but he didn't sound sure. "Let's see how tough you are." As Jared moved forward, Corbin shifted into a stance that anyone who knew martial arts would know. His feet apart, his weight even, his hands relaxed but ready. He went from being a victim to a fighter. "I don't want to fight you, Jared," Corbin said, his voice calm. "Walk away." The hall was silent. Even the noise of lockers and talking seemed to stop as everyone saw what was happening. The quiet kid, the easy target, the boy who had taken weeks of bullying, was standing his ground. Jared's face turned red with anger. He couldn't back down now, not with everyone watching. "You think you scare me?" he yelled, swinging at Corbin's head. What happened next would be on social media for weeks. Corbin moved with grace, stepping away from Jared's clumsy attack and using Jared's own power against him. He swept Jared's foot, sending him crashing to the floor. Ethan rushed in to help, but Corbin was ready. He'd learned to watch multiple people, and he caught Ethan with a hip toss that sent him next to Jared. It all took less than 10 seconds, and when it was over, both bullies were on the ground while Corbin stood over them, breathing easily. Finn, holding his wrist, looked at his friends and backed away. "How ... Jared said from the floor, staring at Corbin. "How did you—" "I tried to avoid this," Corbin said, holding out his hand to help Jared up. Everyone was surprised, even Jared. "But I won't be anyone's victim anymore." Jared hesitated, then took Corbin's hand and let him pull him up. The crowd saw what it meant, the winner showing kindness to the loser. "This isn't over," Jared muttered, but he didn't sound sure. Everyone had seen Corbin beat him and Ethan, and the school's social order had changed. "Yes," Corbin said, his eyes meeting Jared's. "It is." As the crowd left, talking excitedly, Willow came to Corbin's side. She'd missed the fight, but had seen Corbin helping Jared. "Are you okay?" she asked, sounding worried, and also seeing Corbin in a new way. "I'm fine," Corbin said, and for the first time since coming to Crestwood, he meant it. He wasn't scared anymore. He was still the same, but now everyone could see it. The fight spread through Crestwood. Videos were shared, and the story got bigger each time it was told. The quiet new kid had been a fighter, but he'd also been kind when he could have been mean. Principal Thompson called all 4 boys to his office, but the investigation was hard because many students said Corbin had only defended himself. Jared and Ethan got 3 days of suspension, while Corbin got a warning. "I know you were defending yourself," Principal Thompson said, "but I need to know, will this keep happening?" Corbin shook his head. "I don't think so, sir. I think it's over." Things at school changed fast. Students who had ignored Corbin now nodded when they saw him. The football players kept their distance, having seen what happened when someone made fun of the quiet kid. Jared also seemed different. He wasn't as confident, and he seemed to be thinking about what he'd done. He didn't hang out with his friends, and when he saw Corbin, he nodded a little, not friendly but showing respect. Willow saw Corbin in a new light. The kind boy she'd befriended was still there, but she knew he was more than she'd thought. They became closer, talking about everything. "Why didn't you tell me about your training?" she asked one night as they sat in the parking lot. Corbin was quiet, watching the crowd leave the gym. "Because I didn't want to be known for what I could do to others," he said. "I wanted to be liked for who I am, not for what I can do when I'm angry. And now I see that sometimes you have to show strength before people see the rest of you." He looked at her, his eyes serious. "I don't regret it, but I hope it never happens again." 2 weeks after the fight, Jared talked to Corbin near the entrance where it had all started. Jared was alone, looking unsure but determined. "Blackwood," he said, not sounding arrogant. "Can I talk to you?" Corbin stopped. "What is it?" Jared looked uncomfortable, trying to say words he wasn't used to. I mean what I did to you with the Parker." He stopped, then kept going. "It was wrong. I was being a jerk, and you didn't deserve it." The apology hung in the air. Corbin looked at Jared's face, seeing something new, doubt, maybe even regret. "Why?" Corbin asked. "Why did you pick on me?" Jared was quiet, staring at the trophies he'd always thought made him important. "Because I could," he said. "Because you were new and quiet, and you didn't fight back. It made me feel strong, I guess, like I mattered. And now? Now I see that making someone else feel small doesn't make you any bigger." Jared met Corbin's eyes. "I'm not asking you to forgive me or be my friend. I just wanted you to know that I know what I did was wrong, and it won't happen again." Corbin nodded. "I appreciate it," he said. "And I think you're better than what you were acting like." As they walked away, both boys knew that something had changed, not just between them, but in how they saw themselves. Jared walked away knowing how his actions affected others, while Corbin felt complete. The story of the fight at Crestwood became a legend. But for those who lived it, the real lesson wasn't about the fight or the skills that beat the bullies. It was about the quiet strength it takes to be true to yourself and not be a victim. and the knowledge that real strength isn't about hurting others, but about knowing when not to use the power you have. Corbin Blackwood had learned to be seen without losing himself, to stand up without becoming what he'd feared. And at Crestwood Academy, everyone had learned that the quietest person might be the one you should never underestimate. 30,494 characters.